This is the agenda. We usually do this as a boot camp where we come to your site and you're on computers in this big room with everybody and we're running around and helping you and doing things. So we're trying to do a virtual boot camp where we're going to do the same things, only we're going to do it a little quicker. The objectives are that you become familiar and comfortable with the applied digital skills courses and lessons, that you're able to start or feel comfortable enough using it with your students, and that maybe you even add it to your own personal learning kit. I've learned so much by using these lessons, and it actually helped me with my training credential. So it's a good set of lessons. You learn a lot while you're going through. Okay, Nell.
So the kind of underpinning to this whole Google Applied Digital Skills curriculum or lessons is this idea of digital literacy, and the fact that, you know, we no longer can kind of let that skate past us. We in adult literacy have to kind of grapple with this. And the definition that we generally are using, or WIOA has been using, is a version of this American Library Association definition, which is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information requiring both cognitive and technical skills. And this is often in the desire to solve a problem. So we are now, you know, we've been working on all of these skills in the past, right? The ability to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information, but now we're talking about doing it using technology. And this is kind of the underpinning of what Google was kind of using to develop the lessons that you'll see today. And yeah, do you want to do, I didn't.
Oh, we could do this in chat, I think. Maybe
Yeah.
just the first question or the last one. I don't.
Yes. So someone pointed out that maybe we'd add English to the previous definition just to talk about ESL. And certainly doing this in English is part of what we're often covering with our students. But the question here is, how has digital literacy impacted your life? So if you think about today, I mean, where we stand even now compared to, you know, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, and how we're pushing our own digital skills, how has digital literacy impacted your life? So lots of comments.
Cool.
So it's profound changes, right, in our lives, and again, that's been true for a while, but I think we've seen a huge jump. Let's see here. It's taken over my life. Living in rural communities. Where did that jump to? I saw something. We lack access to internet and technology, and that is, again, in New York City, we have the same thing. So we know that a lot of our students and even some of our teachers do not have internet at home, do not have laptops. So we're aiming a lot of our work at people using smartphones, and even that is limited, and certainly bandwidth becomes an issue. It's allowed people to stay close to their children and families who are spread across the USA. I need it, but I don't have the skills. It's such a common refrain. I think everyone's feeling pushed, right? You may feel that you have a huge, you're far behind, but I think everyone at this time, it's moving so fast that everyone has a bit of that sense of not quite having the skills we thought we needed, or we think we need. The difference between functioning and not functioning in the real world. It's made a difference for my students. Communicating with far wider circles, personal and professional, to connect with students, not just information, but with the families all over the world. So now people are using Canvas and Zoom and Google to teach, and that's something that was not true not long ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people feeling that their gaps have been exposed, right? This kind of jump into this, so suddenly we see the spaces where we don't feel totally comfortable.
And, you know, all of these, you know, how it impacts our lives as teachers, take what you're feeling and multiply that by, I'm going to say, a factor of 5 at least for your students, especially if they've never been forced to use digital anything in the past. If all of their coursework was on paper or in books, and all of a sudden, space bar, what is that? You know, so I would think, and some of our students, they're totally good with it. It's fine, no problem. They wish this had happened a long time ago, that everything had gone digital, but For a lot of our students, it's more than it's even more than what we're facing. So back to the students, why are digital skills so important and why are they needed? Name one job that does not require digital skills at some point or to some degree. And before you start typing, I want you to think closely or really hard about this, because for any job that you type, and I actually had a little bit of a discussion with a teacher in Montana when I went there to do this boot camp. She said none of her wranglers, she had a group of cowboys that did not use digital literacy. And I looked at her and said, well, how do they get their checks? And she said, well, they go to the bank. And I, okay, how do they get their money out? And she looked at me and went, oh, yeah, that's a digital skill. Going to the bank, putting in your card, punching in some numbers and getting your money out. And knowing that when you're looking at that little slip of paper, that when you take out $100 or just $20, how to do the math and what have you to figure out, yeah, that's the right balance. So even if you think there aren't any digital skills required, take a look at this link when we give you this handout. It's a low-level job list, and every single job listed requires at least one digital skill, the least of which is email. Everyone has to have an email address now. So even if we're a dishwasher. So if you can think of a job that doesn't require digital skills in some shape, way, or form.
So when we were working with Google to develop this slideshow, and so they have added some important facts and figures and data that we're not going to go too far into, but you can see it all here. I think, again, we feel a little bit like we know this already, right? We're working with students, we're living our own lives, and we know that the way that we're using, if we think about our own lives even, I mean, we used to do these boot camps before the current situation, and even then this was true, but now it's 10 times true as far as how much we are using digital skills in our lives. And imagining people with low level jobs right now, if you're trying to, get funding, get money, find other jobs if your job's gone away, all those things at this point really require digital skills.
Okay, this is just a quick email that we got that a teacher had actually had a student teach the teacher that the students knew more about technology than she realized. So it's a little quick email. Again, look at this when you have the handout. It's pretty cool. At the end, the student was actually teaching the teacher and other students how to use her smartphone to record her voice. We're going to, again, some other reasons why digital literacy is important, a couple of articles that you could read if we haven't sold you yet on why digital literacy is needed. And I think I'm pretty sure everybody agrees that it is by now.
There are some comments, and I mean, obviously you maybe have specific people in mind of people who have jobs that you feel like if they're not using any digital skills. I will say some people are commenting on low-level ESL learners, and I don't think it's inherent, right? So if you're a low-level ESL learner, you still had your native language. You may have even used digital skills in your native language. But it is true that if I try using an ATM in a language that's not my own, it's a total surprise. So keep adding things in there, but this isn't really to find the space where we think there's someone who has a job that doesn't need digital skills.
Oh, no.
I think we're all moving into a world where even if they don't use it today, their ability to find a job or improve their job may be improved if they had digital skills. So one of the things about the Applied Digital Skills website is that you can get there by Googling it, but because we want basically applied digital skill, Google created applied digital skills and was kind of getting it out of the public school system pretty successfully through, departments of ed or in various states, and they had a hard time getting into adult ed, and so they worked with COABE to kind of develop this process of doing these boot camps in each state. And in order for them to track who's getting to their applied digital skills through what COABE is doing, they created a special login or link for us to use. So when you go to Apply Digital Skills today, we're going to ask you to use this link, and you'll have that link. We'll also put it in the chat to get to the Apply Digital Skills platform. So it's a special doorway just for us adult ed people.
And now I just want to add, this isn't tracking anything than how many people are coming through the door. So they're not grabbing information from you. They're not, it's just counting how many people come in through that doorway. And the more people we have coming through this doorway, the more Google realizes, oh, adult education, huh, who knew? So they start thinking about that, and they start putting lessons related to adult education into the courses or the classes. So,
And that was an exciting part of this for us. Like in New York City, we used to be trying to use Google Classroom and things like that. And it was very hard in the early days to do that because we were not a school system. And our, again, I know some of you are working for larger educational organizations, but we had a lot of community-based organizations and groups like that that had a hard time showing that they were educational institutions. And what's happened with Google, I think, is a real recognition that adult ed and adults in general need these skills. So we're really excited, and they really are listening to us. So if you have, as we go through the lessons today, and as you have an opportunity to play with them, if you have suggestions for lessons, they're actually asking for those. So they really are open to hearing about us in a way that we've never had before. So you do need to have a Gmail account to log in. Unlike, so even your students, if you're using this with your students, they will need a Gmail account to log in. You'll need a Gmail account to log in. And if you don't have one, you can go to accounts.google.com and create your account.
and you need to know what kind of an account you have. There's the pub and the club. So I usually do this when I'm face to face, and we break out into an accent here. So when you're in the pub, you've got a public account, yeah? And when you're in the pub, you can do anything you want because you're in the pub and you're all coming in together, and you can share with one another. You can look at each other's stuff the person allows, and there's no limitations. You can do what you want because you're in the pub. And when you're in the pub, you have at gmail.com. So right here at the end, this is our little token that allows us to come into the pub. And we need that in order to use the pub. If you don't have that, you're probably not going to get in, but we'll give you one free. It's no problem. So you're in the pub, you're good to go. Now, when you're on a club, you're quite proper and you're sitting up straight in your chair. Everyone sit up straight now, please. All right, sit up straight, and you have to have your pinky out when you're keyboarding, at least the pinky that you're not using at the time. And you have to be quite proper when you're in the club. Clubs are district accounts. They are not really Google accounts. Well, they are Google accounts. You can get everything that you want to on your platter. That's a Google, as long as your network administrator has put it on the platter for you. So you can maybe get everything on that's a Google except Yahoo, or not Yahoo, but YouTube. It starts with a Y. All right. So on a club, you might be precluded from using YouTube because your network administrator has decided that YouTube should not be allowed on your club. You also might not be able to share with people outside of your club. So if your club or if your Google ends in .net, .edu, .org, .us, anything other than at gmail.com, if your club account ends with any of these things right here that I'm underlining, then you have a Google account. It's called G Suites EDU. It's a club, and you might not be able to share it with your students if they are on the pub. So what do? Well, you have to use the pub. It's pub to pub or club to club. So when you're using Classroom or when you're inviting people into a classroom, and most of you people that are using Google Classroom, you know this, you can't invite people from the pub usually unless your network allows it. And they probably won't, because most of the G Suites EDU accounts are attached to the K-12 entities, I'm going to call them. So what they're doing is they're protecting the kids, the folks under 18. So they might not allow adult learners to have a club account. in which case, no problem, they can use their pub. Can networks share between pub and club? And the sharing is really important because that's how the students show you that they've done their work, or that's how you can add them to your classes that you're going to be creating in applied digital skills. So you have to be able to share. And if you can't, then you have to use the pub. And I hope I explained that correctly. If you have any more questions about that, we're having an office hours tomorrow. Come in and I can explain it a little bit further and even give you a little more detail. But I think that got it. Nell, do you think? Eh?
Yes, thumbs up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Back to you.
And so another piece before getting into the Google Applied Digital Skills, we also want to discuss a little bit of the fact that Applied Digital Skill lessons are all surrounding the various tools that are available in G Suite. And so you need to be a little familiar with what those tools are already. And you can see here a bunch of icons for Chrome and Drive and Docs and spreadsheets. I don't know if did you want to go into more detail on those, Melinda? You have more
I
on the next.
think we do here. Yeah, the skills transfer. So you've got Microsoft, you've got Google on one side, Microsoft on the other. So they transfer. So whatever the students are learning by using Docs, those skills that they're learning will transfer to Word. File new. That's the same within Docs and Word, or Sheets in Excel, or Slides in PowerPoint. Yes, there are some differences here and there. You're going to find that. But when you learn the skill on this application Sheets, you're going to learn most of the same functions that if they go and get a job and the job uses Excel or the Microsoft product, they'll be okay. There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but not a huge learning curve. And if anyone can give me a comparison of sites, Google has sites, and they also have app scripts where you're actually learning code. You're learning how to script things to put within these apps up here to make them function a little bit better. I couldn't find any comparison on Microsoft's side.
Yeah, so really talking about Drive, and as was discussed already, like the pub and club have different amounts of memory or different amounts of space in your Drive. So you have 15 gigs with a public account, and if you are part of a club, you would have 100 gigs, or maybe even unlimited. You can store information there. You can upload actually non-Google documents there. But if you're using your Google documents there, it doesn't subtract from your 15 gigs or your 100 gigs of data. And yeah, one of the things that you'll see as part of the Google Applied Digital Skills lessons are actually lessons on how to organize your Drive. And it's been interesting because I've witnessed, when I work with coworkers and we look at how people find files, just Microsoft style files, it's always hilarious to me how we have very different ways of doing that in Google as well. So I always like to go through that with folks as being efficient. So it's not necessarily that there's rights or wrongs in how you organize your Drive, but you want to be as efficient as possible, or at least know what the efficiencies can be. And I will say that they do some really good lessons on exactly that.
This kind of is the same thing what you just said. This is just an explanation of what the different apps are within Google and what you can use them for. And now, this is kind of going to be a fun thing to do, but it's also a time where you can start opening up two windows. One of the things that I've discovered at going training and what have you through California is a lot of teachers say, well, my students don't want to use this device because they're afraid they're going to break it. Okay, so we're going to make it fun. We're going to make them have fun. We're not going to make them have fun. We're going to show them how they can have fun using that Chromebook or using that laptop or using that device that they have at home, and they don't use it because they're afraid of it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up another window. I actually opened up another tab. Okay. Now, in the omnibar. The omnibar in Google Talk is the address bar, way up at the top of your screen, where you usually type www something, okay? What you're gonna type right now exactly is 2 plus 2. Just type in 2 plus 2. That's all you need to type, and then hit your enter key. 2 plus 2. Okay, 2 plus 2, and then hit your enter, and you get the answer right there. Okay, so whoop-de-doo. All right, no big deal, right? So let's add something there to make it more of a whoop-de-doo. We're going to put 2 plus 2 in parentheses. Follow along. And then we're going to put times 98. Okay, and then we're going to hit the enter key. Aha, it does more complex calculations, right? All right, now let's really go out there. And I'm going to type 3x, and I've already done this, 3x in parentheses 3 minus y. And now look what happens. Oh my gosh, it does graphing as well. Now this is a kind of a complicated little, it's small, but it's a complicated graph here. So if you wanted to do a simpler graph, 3x plus or minus 8, oops, didn't do the minus. Notice I'm not doing equal signs at all. So 3x minus 9 gives me the answer. And it also shows me how it got, oh, it's 3x. Oh, it did it wrong. Make it a y. It actually, that's a first. Now it's going back to the, here we go. This is what I wanted you to see. So here is also just a simple graph. And you can tell where the XY coordinates by dragging, just hovering your mouse up and down. So I've got 5x plus 49, just because that's where my fingers landed. Okay, and these are the XY coordinates here. You see them up at the top as you're moving it down, up and down. So there is a calculator. Okay, so your students don't need a calculator off to the side in order to do the math problems. They can actually use Google Chrome to do that. Something else, to make it more fun, everyone type in the search bar or the Omnibox, it doesn't matter, type roll dice and then hit enter. And you're gonna get a dice. Now you can roll it, right? You can change the size, you can add dice, and then underneath the roll button, you're going to see other things that you can do. So they actually have a little graphic calculator, they have a color picker, they have a flip coin, they've got a metronome, they've got a spinner, bunch of little tools here. I am on the tools tab underneath the roll button. So how did I get here? I typed roll dice, okay? I see the roll button. And then I had a little arrow underneath the roll button that I selected, and it tells me I'm on the Tools tab. If you look to the left, you're going to see a Games and Toys tab. And if you click that, ooh, you can play tic-tac-toe. Now, yes, this is a game, but it's also mouse skills, right? Because you're teaching your students how to, oh, darn, lost. All right, they've also got solitaire. You could type in any one of these game names, and it would appear here. Now, it also, you get a bunch of different other searches as well, but up at the top, you'll get these little games. So use this to help your students. There's also, you know, to get the day started, you could go with fun facts. How long is the Grand Canyon? Ask another question. You could use this in a Zoom room. This is just something to get the class warmed up, thinking a little bit.
So there have been a few questions about the club and pub.
Okay.
My pub Google Drive is mixed with my club drive. Offhand, any idea how that might have happened? Yeah, I have a club account. Should I go open a Gmail pub account, or can I use my .org account?
Okay. Test it. Okay. Most of you, I would think, have an @gmail.com. Let's start there first. If you don't know whether or not you're going to be able to share with your students or your students are going to be able to share with you, I actually have pub account, scoietech@gmail.com, and I have a pub account, mholt@scoie.net. So back to the first question, how did things that you created within your Gmail all of a sudden appear in your club account? It means you were actually creating them with your club account and you didn't know it. So somehow you didn't pay attention to your avatar up at the top right-hand corner. That's my guess. And that tells me, though, that you're able to share between club and pub. For the person that's not sure, if you start creating things, let's say you're in your club, and I know I'm in my club because that's the avatar I use for my club, and I want to share my docs or my sheets, or I want to create a classroom or a class, I should say, in applied digital skills, and I want to invite my pub students, I will create the lessons using my club account, just one, and then I will invite my pub self, so my student self, okay? And if it works, huzzah, then you can do it with your students. So test it out on yourself. If it doesn't work, then just use your pub account, your @gmail.com account, to go into Applied Digital Skills and start creating a class. And then you can
And I,
invite your students that way. Go ahead.
well, no, I was just gonna say, and a good tip here is to have different avatars or different pictures of yourself in your different accounts, because otherwise you can get very confused. I'm guilty of having learned that the hard way, where my accounts all have the same picture, and then you're like, well, which one am I in? There was another question, recommended browser, Chrome? Question mark, question
Absolutely.
mark? Yes,
Chrome
absolutely.
is okay, Chrome is a Google product, so it's in the same sandbox with all the other Google tools. Will it work outside of the sandbox? Absolutely. Will it work as well? Meh. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But you can use Applied Digital Skills in different browsers. If you find that something's a little wonky when you're using Firefox or one of the other browsers, then go back to Chrome, and nothing will be wonky.
And there was one last question, which is one, so if club accounts cannot be given to adult learners, our students cannot access some of the resources, including applications for emergency relief or borrowing equipment that the K-12 students are given. What then?
Wow, I would talk to my district. I would definitely talk to me, especially in this time, the COVID time is what we're starting to call it. Your students need resources, so um, find out if they can make some kind of special allowances where at least they can borrow some equipment, a Chromebook, a laptop, anything, and then use it with their pub account. They can use district equipment using a public account. They'll be able to log into Gmail or open a browser and log into their Gmail or into any Google tool using their account information. That's not going to be precluded. So I don't know that I answered that. Nell, if you have any thoughts, New York's a little different, but
I think it's the same. I mean, again, go to the source. We've seen that issue at our community colleges and larger institutions where they have different levels of access and they tend to leave adult ed out. And I don't know of another solution except really advocating with the people who make those decisions in your organization to try and help them understand that your adult students should get access, especially as you said, now in the time of COVID, everyone needs that more than ever. And then someone had a question about how to get a public account. So I'm going to type the link in the chat, but basically you're going to accounts.google.com and you're just creating a new public account. So pub stands for public. So anywhere you would make a normal Google account as a person, a private person, that's how you make a public account. So I'll add that link in the chat.
and just a quick return here. You don't have to create an @gmail.com account. You can actually, when you go to accounts.google.com, there's a link. It's really small. It'll say use my current email address instead. So you put in the first name and the last name that you want, and then usually you type in a username that you want to use, and it'll be the username at gmail.com, right? So mine is scoietech@gmail.com. However, I also have a scoietech@yahoo.com account. I have a Yahoo account using the name Scoietech. So I created another account, I put in my name, first name and last name, and then I clicked on this little link here, use my current email address instead, and I typed in scoetech@yahoo. So I have access after that to all of the Google tools except Gmail. So if you have a Yahoo account or an AOL account, don't use AOL, or some other email address, Hotmail, same thing with your students. If they have a different kind of an account and they don't want another Gmail or email account, have them create a Google account using their current email address. And on this handout, you can see and download, there will be PDF instructions that come up and it'll walk you through that process.
So there are a couple of other questions that are coming in, and we do, Anthony's been really great at telling people in the chat to go put their questions in the Q&A. Do that, and then we'll answer them there. There was a question about the cost of expanding a club account for several hundred students.
That would, again, something to talk to your district about. Google gives accounts in bulk. Like you get, I'm just going to pull a number out of the air. I don't know that this is true, but let's say that they give an entity that's been designated an educational entity, they give them 20,000 accounts. Here you go. Okay. And then if they want more than that, then they would pay extra. But they usually have more than enough accounts to spread the love. The problem is that most G Suites EDU accounts are piggybacking on K-12. So unless you're in a community college or a university, okay? But if you're in a K-12 district, then it's piggybacking on G Suites EDU or the K-12 G Suites. So they're trying to protect the students that are under 18, okay? And that doesn't mean the adults can't have accounts. It just means that the administrator of the Google has to make two different organizations within the G Suites. This is getting way above and beyond this workshop. The applied digital skills, there are a couple of other slides here. You know, it's free. It's gotten several awards. It's been validated by this, that, and the other thing. Read them at your leisure. We want to get through this. All of the lessons are video-based, and you or your students will have a project at the end of each lesson for your own use. So your students are actually creating a resume as they're watching the video and filling and doing the tasks, or they're actually creating a website, or they're actually getting a budget for their own use at the end of each lesson. You will need some things. Your students will need some things, or your learners. They need to be able to at least find the keys on the keyboard, okay? Basic keyboarding skills, some basic computer knowledge, like how to turn it on and turn it off, and understanding some basic terms like click, back, select, open. That will help. Is it required? It's not required, but it will help, okay? Teachers also need the same thing. They're going to need to know a little bit about the lesson offerings, and we're going to show you that. You also need to be a little bit familiar with Google Drive and how it works. If you need more information on that, contact OTAN. I actually think we have a webinar coming up on Google Docs and Drive. So it's not on the calendar yet, but we are going to be doing that. So you can come back and watch how to organize Drive and get Docs going. And these are just the basic steps of using applied digital skills. This is it in a nutshell. Okay? Now, each one of those steps, we can broaden out into maybe 5 steps each. So you'd have 1 A through E, 2 A through E, 3 A through E. And that's what we're going to do next. And I think I talked over what Nell was going to talk about. Nell, do you got anything to add to the slides?
I don't, but
Okay.
you're hitting it all.
Okay. This is the next section of the ebook. Okay. Again, when you get this, you don't have to pay any attention to the first 26 slides. You could get rid of them actually, because it'll be your copy. And then you can just go here and then click on the link because you want to know how to open and sign. Or if you already use applied digital skills, you can go to add a lesson, because that's what you need help with, or inviting co-teachers. And this will take you through step by step. All right. So I am going to show you how to do this. I move that over. And you are actually going to do that. Okay. So First thing everyone needs to do, you've got 2 windows open. If you don't, then you can, if you wish. You need to get up to speed here. We need you to go to, oh my goodness, the link isn't here. We need you to go to this link, g.co/applied digital skills/COABE. Okay, once you get there, you're going to see this. You might be signed in already. I know I'm signed in, and yet I still have this sign in button. Okay, Google just wants to know that you're coming in. You don't have to come in. You can learn more. You can just look at all of the stuff on this page, or without signing in, you can see what's there for teachers. Okay, they give you a little spiel here. Or you can select lessons. And if you click on lessons, you can actually get to see the lessons without signing in. So you might want to look at this before you even decide to use it. Okay. The lessons tab, you're going to notice some areas. On the far left-hand side, you can actually search for a lesson by keyword. So if you wanted to search for something in regards to budget, you could type the word budget in there. If you wanted to filter by audience, then you would select the arrow next to audience, and you can select late elementary, middle school, high school, and adult learners. Don't ever use this. Don't do it. Don't use audience, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be precluding a lot of lessons from yourself. I want everyone, if you're on this page, to scroll down. I'll talk about the collections area in a minute, but I want you to scroll down until you see the heading lessons. It's showing 118 of 118. Yes, there are 118 lessons here. Each lesson card will tell you how many minutes about it will take. Okay, and there's more information here. The reason I wanted you to see this was so that you could see what happens next when I hit the adult learners checkbox. I'm going to select that, and how many lessons do I have now? 40. So I've just taken almost 80 lessons out of my queue here, just by selecting this checkbox.
People are a little behind. Do you want them to be
Okay.
where you are?
I wanted them to see this. So if you go to Applied Digital Skills, g.co, Applied Digital Skills/COABE.
And I put that in the chat, so you can
Okay.
if you want to. I think some people, so there was a question about whether they should be logging in with their club or pub account.
Don't log in yet. I just wanted you to see that you could view this, or your students could view this without signing in yet.
So you're basically just going to that link, and then once you're there, you're clicking on lessons, which
Exactly.
is there's like 4 tabs. It says apply digital skills for teachers, for students, and then lessons. And you're just clicking on lessons, and that shows you all the collections and all the individual lessons.
Yes. And this is the important one, because I think, Nell, I think you agree with me. Don't filter by audience. That was the big takeaway.
Yes, that's my big takeaway. If you want to do that, you can experiment. But what our experience has been is that that there are many, many lessons we think are incredibly valuable and fun to do that are not labeled as adult education for adult learners. And so you lose out on a lot of those. The adult learner ones tend to be a little dry. They're very, very functional and lovely, and they're still worth examining. But if you click the filters of audience, you kind of limit yourself, maybe unknowingly, to lessons that we actually think you're going to miss out on a bunch of good ones.
Yeah. So on the filters, if everyone's here with me on lessons, again, don't sign in yet. You could also filter by the tool that you want students to use. So if you want them to know more about calendaring, you select the calendar, and then all of the lessons that have something regarding a calendar in it will come up for you. And you notice here, I've got 6 of 118. Okay, we could add multiple check boxes. So drawings and docs, you've got 7 of 18 there. You can also, without selecting anything, you could just look at the collections, and that's up at the top of the lessons tab. The collections are lessons that Google has put together regarding the topic of the card. So teach from anywhere. Help students continue learning even when you're not with them in person. So there's a collection of 6 lessons that will help you to do that. Work from anywhere. There's a collection of 6 lessons. And as you scroll down, you'll see all of these collections. Now, these collections were built using these 118 lessons. As you scroll down past the collections area, you're going to see the 118 if you haven't selected a filter. Okay. So this is kind of how to maneuver. Just see the lessons, get a look at it, see what they do before you sign in. Now, if you're sold, you want to go for it. I'm going to go back to the slides deck, because when you're on a pub, if you're using your pub, you're not going to have to worry about it. If you're using your club, it's very important. Go ahead and click that sign in button. If you're given anything that looks like choosing a role as a teacher or a student, choose teacher. That's very important, especially when you're in a club, because once you choose student, you're put in the student pool, and no one can get you out of that pool except your G Suite's administrator. And I'm hoping you know who that person is, because we don't. Okay, so make sure you choose teacher if you're given a role. Go ahead and select that sign in button at the top of your screen on the right, and once you do, you're going to be asked to set up your profile. So on your profile, you're going to give your contact information. You're going to select your language, into the name that students will see. Okay, this is so down on your profile as you're creating it, you're going to see an area that says your name. Okay, that's the name that students will see. That's not your account name. So you don't have to type in your email again. All right. We also recommend that you fill out the information that's where the letter D is listed here on the Zoom. So what type of school do you teach at? You don't have to choose anything, but you should, because that gives Google an idea of who's using it. And like we were saying earlier, if they know that a lot of adult education teachers are using this, they're going to start doing more lessons for us. Or if you give them feedback, they're going to see, oh, Joanna, she's an adult education teacher, and now she's asking for more ESL kind of lessons. All right, Joanna asked for it, Dave asked for it, Bob asked for it, Susan asked for it. So the more people that ask for that same type of lesson, the more apt they will be to create it. And we met the teachers that are actually creating these lessons. It's a group of teachers, folks. It's not Google techs. They're teachers that are creating the lessons and creating all the other stuff that you're going to see here in a sec. And I've been talking a lot just so that you'll fill out this profile. Okay. All right. So we've done that. Once you create your profile, you're in. Now we're going to have some fun. Okay, so I'm going to hit my sign in button. I don't have to create a profile. Google already knows who I am, except that I'm signed into a couple different accounts. So I clicked on the sign in button and it's asking me, okay, which account are we using here? So I'm going to select my pub account. And it didn't ask you for your profile. That's interesting. So once mine opens, here we go, you might see something a little different. Number one, you probably haven't created any classes yet, so don't worry about that. If you have signed in, you should see at the top of your screen the word teacher. If you see the word teacher, click it and then select my profile. So hit sign in button. If you're signed into more than one account, yes, you can. Select the correct account. And then you should see at the top right-hand corner of the Applied Digital Skills screen, the website, you should see the word teacher with your face there if you have it. When you click on it, you're going to see the second selection is my profile. You're going to select that. And this is where your profile should show up. So I have my name that's on my account. Okay. My account type is teacher. As I scroll down, I may be contacted for feedback. I've got my language here. What do you want your students to call you? Okay. So that's what the students will see on the lessons. Where will you be using applied digital skills? Choose whatever appropriate. What type of school do you teach at? I'm scrolling down the profile site or page. What type of community center do you teach at? Whoa, that's new. I haven't seen that. That's cool. What disciplines do you teach? So you would select what you need there, whatever's appropriate, and what roles will you be using applied digital skills, and how did you hear, and there you go. Okay. So I'm going to scroll all the way back up. I see up at the top of my screen, I see Google for Education, then applied digital skills for teachers, for students, then lessons. On the far right-hand side, I see my classes. You probably won't because you haven't created any yet. And then I see the word teacher. That's me. Okay. I want everyone to look up at the top of their screen and select lessons. Now Google's going to understand that you're signed in, and you should still see the word teacher up at the top right-hand corner of the page. You should still see the collections. As you scroll down, you should see that the lessons area where you have 118. Okay. Another filter on this page in line with lessons, the word lessons showing 118 is the sort by. So we've got most popular, most recent. You can also go by duration. So if you want really short lessons, you would select duration, then you have to scroll down again, which is a pain. And then you can see we've got 45 to 90 minutes. And if we scroll all the way down, you should notice the time. Here we go, 4 to 6 hours to create a guide to an area. 5 to 10 hours. So if you want to keep your students busy, give them one of those. These are just general time frames. And before anybody asks, no, Google does not track how much time is spent. So there's a lot of reasons for it. Basically because this is used worldwide and everybody has their own set of standards on timings and what have you. So Google just kind of backed out of that Kool-Aid. It's not, nope, you figure it out. You know, we're going to give you a suggestion as 45 to 90 minutes, depending on skill levels. And then you decide how much time to give your students. All right, so I've scrolled up and down the lessons area. Let's go and up at the top of my lesson on duration, I've sorted by duration. I see create a resume in Google Docs or create quizzes in Google Forms. Let's do that one because I haven't used that one yet. So everyone just, we're not creating anything yet. We're just looking at it. So if you don't see create quizzes in Google Forms, that's okay. Select another one. They're basically, all of the lessons are laid out the same. Different content, but laid out the same. So I'm going to select a lesson, choose anything you want. It opens up, okay? On this page, you're going to see under the start button, look down or scroll down a little bit, you're going to see the time to complete, the digital tools that it's using, that this lesson is using, the skills that the student will be attaining as they go through the lessons. Okay, this is the activities tab. If you scroll down a little more, you're going to see the videos. We could actually click on the video just to get an idea of what it looks like. And I hope I remember to share my sound. Nell, could you let me know?
Quizzes are a way to measure understanding of a topic.
It's good. It's good.
Okay.
Yep.
On the video, if you scroll down a little more, the transcript opens up for you automatically. Okay. So the transcript follows the video. And as you're watching the video, you're going to notice the words in the transcript becoming bold.
Your teacher might use quizzes to test your knowledge and find out how well you understand the concepts and facts you're being taught in class.
And if you're called away and you remember as a student or a teacher that you were already at, you also might want or also might use a quiz as part of the classroom. You remember something about the transcript. Look, I was on the third paragraph. So you go down to the third paragraph and you click it.
You also might use a quiz as part of a classroom presentation on a book or a...
Okay. We're all different learners, different kinds of learners. Some of us like to listen to things fast. Sometimes we like to listen to things slow. So you also have a playback speed. Underneath the video, you're going to see playback speed is defaulted to normal. I'm going to hit the video.
A topic to test your classmates' knowledge and make your project more interactive. In this lesson, you will create a quiz in Google Forms to test someone's knowledge about a topic. With digital quizzes in Google Forms, you can share the
Okay, in one, she sounds like it's been early Monday morning, and in the other, the fast one, it sounds like she's had a little too much caffeine. So you can set the speed, or the students can set the speed that they wish to listen. Some of us listen faster than others, or they just want to get this through this one part really quick, or they need to listen slower. So they have that playback speed function there as well. There we go. So far, so good. Now, up at the top of the video that I just opened, there's a path. Okay, I want to go back to that activities tab that we were on previous to this. So remember, I scrolled down and I clicked the lesson one. I clicked the video link. So I'm going to, up at the top of my video, I see create quizzes in Google Forms. That's the name of the lesson that I opened up. That's what I want to choose. So I'm going to click on that. So I'm back to the activities tab. Here's all the lessons. That was the video that I just watched, right? All right, now on this page as well, remember we haven't added this to a class yet. On this page, you're gonna wanna look at teaching materials. So I opened a lesson, okay? And you could go back to lessons and then choose a lesson. Get the lesson opened, and then under the start button, you're going to see the activities tab and the teaching materials tab. Click on the teaching materials tab. In here, you're going to have, oh my gosh, look at this, lesson plan and a sample rubric. And for those of you in remote areas, you can also download the videos. The videos have been, are licensed under Creative Commons, share alike, international license. So you can use, or you can download these videos, maybe put them on a hard disk or a flash drive or something for your students. They can take it home as long as they got a computer to put the video, you know, watch the video with. But you can download the videos and you can download the materials as well, as long as you've got internet connection in that time when you're downloading. Let's look at the lesson plan. I just clicked on the word lesson plan. Some of you might have beat me to it. That's good. When you look through here, you're going to see the objectives, the skills, the terms and concepts. All of this is yours to have. Now, let's say you look at this and, you know, I'd really like to add another objective. You can. Not to this one, because it belongs to Google. But if you notice, there is a link up at the top of all of the lesson plans that says Save Copy to Drive. Now, the first thing I do is I look over at my little avatar next to the share button to make sure I know who I'm saving this to. Okay, this is the account I want to save it to. So then I would click this link. Or those of you that are Googlers, you know that you can go to File, Make a Copy. Okay, you're given view rights. You're not given edit rights to this one, but when you make a copy, you can name it anything you want. My copy of Create Quizzes in Google Forms, right? I can choose the folder that I want it to go to. If I wanted to change the folder, right now I can see it's going in my drive. I'm going to say okay. And as soon as I do that, it opens up and it's mine. I can do whatever I want to it at that point. The rubric works the same way. All of the, see, here we go. And you notice the share button on my screen, it's going to have a lock on it. And that tells me it's mine. It's mine. Now, if I wanted to share it, I would leave that link there, okay, to make it easier for maybe my co-teacher. But I can take it out if I want to. I could unlink it. I can take it. This is mine. I can do whatever I want with it. All right. All right. So when you open things, when you save things, it will open up in a new tab. And because you can't see it, but I have a Zoom toolbar at the top of my screen. I'm trying to move this down so I can see all of my tabs up at the top. So every time you click open a lesson or a rubric or whatever, a new tab is going to open. So I'm going to close these tabs so I get back to the tab that has create quizzes in Google Forms. That's the name of the lesson that I had open. If I like what I see so far, I can add it to a class right now. And that's what I'm going to do. So let's backtrack a little bit. You can click on lessons. You find a lesson. You look at the materials. You look at the activities. You go, yes, this is the one. This is for me. You go towards the top of the screen. You're going to click on add to a class. Okay. Then, now here's the thing. I have a lot of classes and you don't. Okay. But I could add this to any of these classes along with create a new class. Okay, so you probably have just create a new class. We're going to give this a class name of forms and stuff. Okay, just for grins and giggles. Who is this class mostly for? I'm going to select adult learners. And then I'm going to select the add to class button. It's going to give me this, okay, the lessons are going to be added to forms and stuff. This is the name of my class, forms and stuff. Now I can go back to view the curriculum. I want to get more lessons, right? I've already created a class. I want to view curriculum so I can add more to that class, or I can view the class right now. I'm going to view the class. And I know the class is open because I can see the banner that goes all the way across. Okay, it has the name of my class. Underneath that, I see the class code. Okay, let's go back to where the title of the class is, and this big banner that's going across the screen. I'm going to click, whenever you see a pencil tool in Google, it means edit. So I'm going to hit that edit button next to my title. Please do the same. And now you can see you can change the class color. You can make it any color you want. All they give you is a color option. Be happy. Okay? So you can change it to any color you want, and as soon as you save this, you can, it will change the color. Okay, I'm going to go back to that edit button to also show you that along with color up at the top, you can correct spelling of the title, or you can change the title at any time, even after you share with your students. Okay, so if you've made a misspell, your students will find it and they will tell you, and then you can correct it. Not a problem, just use that edit button in line with the title. All right, underneath the title, you're going to see the class code. The class code has an expand button next to it. Because right now, if I ask anybody to join this class, you probably can't see those little bitty letters. So I'm going to hit the expand button. And in any kind of a recording or in a Zoom or a Meet or whatever, you should be able to see that, right? So we've got PHX5CR. So this is how you get your students to come into your class. You're showing them this code. Can you change the code? No. Well, actually, I take that back. You can change the code, but not to anything that you're going to want. Okay, we'll show you that in here in just a second. So how did I make that bigger? Underneath my title, I see the class code and I see the expand button. So I click it. Everyone got the code? Good. I'm going to click the X. Okay. Now here on this class, this is the class name, Forms and Stuff. This is the lesson that I've added to the class. If I want to add more lessons, when you have a class open, you'll see an Add Lessons button. You can use the button to add to this class, or you can go to the Lessons tab to add to this class. Either way, it does exactly the same thing. I'm going to click on the Add Lessons button with the plus sign. It's underneath the banner of the class name. And there you see. If I'd clicked on the Lessons button or the Lessons tab, it would have taken me here. So either way, you're good. I'm going to scroll down. Now I want my students to know more about forms. Okay, so I'm going to select the digital tool filter, and I'm going to look for forms in the list, and I'm going to select forms. And now I see I have 5 of 118 lessons, right? So create quizzes in Google Forms, I've already added that. So I'm looking, oh, create a guessing game. That could be cool. Communicate effectively at work. Yeah, all right. Ask for feedback. This sounds relatively easy. Good. I lost my words there for a minute. So I'm going to click on ask for feedback. If you're following along, fine. If you're doing your own thing on creating your own classes and figuring out your own digital tools, that's fine too. I'm going to select the ask for feedback lesson. I'm going to just quickly go through and again, look, I got the lesson plan there. I've got a sample rubric I could make my own. They also have certificates of completion. These are not, these are, what's the word I'm looking for? These are not certifications. Okay, these are just simple, fun certificates that you can give your students after finishing a lesson. Okay, this is nothing like becoming a Google trainer. You get a badge and a bunch of other stuff. Okay, these are just simple certificates after a lesson is over. So after I figure out, yes, this is the lesson that I want to add, I'm going to find and look and click the add to class button next to the start button. I don't want to start the lesson. I don't want to do it. I want to add it to my class. Your students would click on start. Okay. If I have more than one class created, it'll give me this big long list. I know I won't only want this to go into forms and stuff. So that's what I'm adding it to. And then I find the add to class button. Now I have 2 lessons in my forms and stuff class.
So there was a kind of a bunch of questions around Canvas. I think whether people can put this into Canvas and use Canvas to track time.
No, they can link out to it, but they can't bring it into Canvas. The Canvas is SCORM compliant, and this is not. So that's one reason. Number 2, Canvas and Google play together really well, but not in that area. So they can link to it, but they can't have Canvas track time. However, that being said, they can link to it and then have the students come back into Canvas and do something where they can track time? Question mark. I don't know if that made sense.
I think, and then the follow-up to that was that you about connecting this with Google Classroom.
Yes, you can also connect it to Google Classroom. So that's coming up. Can we wait for that?
Yeah, and then I think there was one other question about people wanting to know if they can remove lessons or edit a lesson.
Absolutely. So in the in line with the lesson title, now you're in your class. Everyone have a class open, and you know you're in a class because you got that big banner going all the way across the page, right? So you've opened up a class. In line with the lesson, there's what they call a skinny snowman or the vertical ellipses. Okay, in line with this, with the lesson title next to the progress summary, when you click on the skinny snowman, you can move this lesson down, or if it was down further, you could move it up, or you can mark it as finished, or you can remove the lesson. So you have those options there. Once you're here on your class, people, we need to go to the people. Everyone find your people button and click on your people button. You have no people in your class. All right, so you need to send these instructions to them. Okay, so right here you can select this and paste it in an email and send it to them. Or if you're in a Zoom or a Meet, or you're sharing video somehow, you're sharing your screen with people, you could actually, right from here, show them the code. Okay, that expand button is still there next to the class code. All right, you could also share to Classroom right here. Now there's a bunch of ways to share to Classroom without going to the People tab, but since the question came up, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Don't do this unless you have Google Classroom already set up. Okay, so don't do this unless you have a Google Classroom already set up. Don't do it unless you have a Google Classroom. All right, but if you do have a Google Classroom, you can click the Share to Classroom button, and then I'm going to get some options. So for this class, do I want to add this class to my classroom? I need to choose which classroom I'm going to add the class to. All right, and then I would select one. And I don't want this to go into history. What was I thinking? Here we go, Google Class. And am I going to create an assignment, an announcement, or material, right? So those of you that are using Google Classroom, you know what those options are. You know what to go do from here. And yes, this entire lesson, this entire class will go into your Google Classroom. You can add materials around it, but you can't actually add any materials to it within the assignment. So right here in the action, you can't add anything more to it. This is the assignment. So those of you that are using Google Classroom, you should understand that. If you don't, come to an office hours, I'll explain it there. You can also add co-teachers. Co-teachers have a longer link and it's not shared in the class code. So give this to a teacher and then they can also help you monitor the students' progress through the lessons. These lessons are not graded, okay? You're given a progress detail. You're shown what they've done, where they're at, how much they've completed, but you're not able to grade. It's not a pass-fail, it's a do or not do, okay? If they get to the end of the lesson, then they have created a project, and at that point, they will be asked to share it with you through the lesson. And it's pretty streamlined, and then you'll get to see what they completed. It belongs to them, but through the Google Applied Digital Skills, it's being shared with you so you can view it. So no grades on Applied Digital Skills. While you're here, on any page, if you see where you see teacher, okay, and your picture or your avatar, whatever you have there, I want everyone to click on teacher and go back to my profile, because this is one good thing that Applied Digital Skills does that Google Classroom does not. You can actually see and join a class as a student. So, oh, I should have had you. All right, I screwed up. All right, everyone, look at the top of your screen and click on My Classes. This is your classes dashboard. Okay, so look at the top of your screen when you're on Applied Digital Skills. Once you sign in, you should see a My Classes link on the right side. Click that and you will get to your dashboard. Looks similar to this. You might only have 2 cards instead of, I don't know what I have, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is, okay? When you're looking at this, you should see the code, class code for your class. Now you can write it down, and I want everyone to do this right now. I want you to write down your code, or you can select this little icon that's appearing. It looks like 2 little pieces of paper. That's the copy button. Doesn't look like it's done anything, but once you click it, what it's done is it's copied that code to your clipboard on your computer. So either write it down or select this little button that appears next to the code. Once I hover over it just right, there it is. And when you click it, you should see a little pop-up that says class code has been copied to your clipboard. Okay, everyone got your class code? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, go to the teacher profile. So click on the word teacher, go to my profile. All right, underneath your name, underneath the privacy and terms, you're going to see account type teacher, and then you're going to see switch to student. Click that link. Do you want to change your role? Yes. All right, these are the classes that I'm in as a student. I'm a student now. How do I know I'm a student? Because when I look on the top right-hand corner of the page, I see the word student, not teacher. Everyone confirm that you are a student, not a teacher. That's important, because the next step is going to be to join a class, and you're actually going to join your own class. You don't have to have a student account and a teacher account. They're built into Applied Digital Skills. So you can go back and forth between teacher and student without having another email address. All right, so confirm you're a student, then go to the join a class button. Now, if you copied the class code, all you have to do right now is you can right-click and then paste, or you can use Control V on your computer keyboard and it will paste the code. Or you can type it in if you wrote it down. Make sure you enter that class code. And it's telling you your name, email, progress data, survey responses, and projects will be shared with your teachers. Not owned by your teachers, but shared by your teachers. This is exactly what your students are going to see. I'm going to hit the next button. And it's giving my student, now this is important. Make sure your students know that they should read this little bit of information here, because if it says that you're going to teacher Mr. Jones's class and they don't know Mr. Jones, then chances are they typed the code wrong. So make sure you look at this. Make sure that you're looking at the right class name, that the right teacher name, and yes, also the class code. But if you typed it wrong, right? And here it is. Here's the class that I've just added. On this, I can see what the lessons are within the class. Okay, I can select either one. If my teacher moves the order that my teacher moves them in, that's the order that I will see them in. So I can click on either one. This is exactly what the teacher sees. Okay, but you see, I don't have add to class, right? All I have is the start button. By the way, yes, the students can see the teaching materials. Yes, they can see the lesson plan. Yes, they could actually make a copy of the lesson plan. Will they? Heck no. And if they do, so what? It's not going to do anything. It's okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit start here. And now I'm starting the lesson as a student. I can watch the video.
Quizzes are a way to measure understanding of a topic. Your teacher might use quizzes to test your knowledge and find out how well you understand. After signing into your Google account, move on to the next video to choose a topic and get started building your quiz.
Okay, it's telling me to hit the next button, which is down under the transcript. By the way, the transcript, you can toggle it on and off. So I'm going to go to next. And it's going to have me do something. Oh, look at this. So on this lesson, some of the lessons, they will have a share your work. So they are actually, the students will be creating something within this video, within this lesson part, and they are going to be sharing it with their teachers. So they'll be sharing the link. They'll be pasting it here. And they'll walk through all of that on the lesson, okay? So
Melinda, a few people have had questions about this particular piece, about how students are prompted to upload examples of their work and where that goes.
They're okay. Whew. You actually have to go through it to see it. So they actually, when you choose a topic.
When you've chosen a topic, create a new tab in your browser and open Google Forms. Start a new blank form. Update the settings to make this a quiz. Save your settings. Don't worry about the other options for now. Give your quiz a title. Make the specific subject of your quiz clear.
They just made a bunch of quizzes. They're just showing different titles.
Then, write a brief description of the quiz, including any details that might help the person taking your quiz, such as textbook chapters referenced or period of time being covered. Now, it's your turn. Choose a topic for your quiz. Open Google Forms in a new tab, change the settings to quiz, and give your quiz a title and description.
So they walk you through the lessons. They did not show you how to share the work. So that might be something that you have to, as a teacher, you might have to show your students how to share their work. It's not that hard. It's relative. I mean, you have to know some of this. I thought that they put it at the end of the lessons. I thought we had that discussion with Shalan. I thought they were going to do it. So there are, on some of the videos, there are exactly how to share your work with your teacher. Now this one, as I was watching the video, create quizzes in Google Forms, you know, this is probably not something you're going to give your students. Okay, so this is a little more advanced lesson that you might, this is why you want to watch it as a teacher. Okay, the simpler lessons, Nell, I'm positive that at the end of a few lessons that I've shown that they have, this is how you share your work with your teacher.
I've definitely seen that. I think
Yeah.
it pops up. So if you're not logged in, it doesn't show up. You'll just see some. So if you're not logged in and you go to lessons, you'll see a lesson, and on the side it will tell you to get to the materials you have to log in. Once you're logged in, depending on the activity you're doing, it will prompt in the video, it will tell people how to create the document or whatever it is that they're asking you to create. And usually on the right side, there'll be a place for you to upload it or directions. But you also, so I agree with you. I would actually go through some of these lessons as a student and experience it myself, so I understand where things are going to get a little wacky. You can always tell your students how you would like them to share their content, because basically they're making a Google document of some sort. They can send you the link in a different way, but they do, my experience has been that they often, on the right side, when it's time to share something, they will pop up a message, and then it's basically creating a folder where all that content will go.
I just chose the wrong lesson to show. So, you know,
yes.
Yeah. So, so again, this is a little more advanced. I don't think you're going to be doing this one with your students. So, and now you're forewarned. You're going to have to show them how to share with you if you do it. Most of them will have those instructions, like Nell was saying, though. I'm gonna change my role. Okay, I'm gonna change my role back to teacher, so that I can actually go look at another class that has some student progress in it, so that you can see that. Now, you're not going to be able to see student progress because you don't have students in your class yet. So when you do, though, you're going to want to be in your teacher, you're going to have on your teacher jacket. Okay, so I went to the profile, I clicked on the word student. I'm back to the student profile. I'm going to switch to teacher. I'm going to say yes, change my role. This will become second nature to you to go back and forth between teacher and student. Okay. And now that I have the back to my dashboard, I can see that, oh, look at this. I have 3 of 3 students have signed in. Again, I only thought I had 1. So somebody copied my code. That's cool. So I could actually look at who's done what. Let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit create quizzes. And oh no, wait, what? There we go. So this is a class that I created when we first started doing applied digital skills, and I got the code 63 stuck, and I love this code, so I'm never getting rid of this class. So I put all kinds of classes in here, but you can see that I have progress detailed now, okay, because some students have done some work. So after you open your class, you'll see a progress summary, and yours will be blank because you don't have any students, but I have a view progress details link that I'm going to click on, and there we go. So I have this person here has done 2 out of 8 of the steps. This person has done nothing, right? 0%, 0%. SCOE Tech on the ball has done all 8 lessons. So I can select that person or this info right here, and I get a bunch of information that comes off to the right, including the little, it's like a little quiz almost that the students are asked to take, and you get the pictures that the students see and everything along with their answers, so you can see what they submitted. Okay, it's really kind of cool. Winky Hutu has only done 25%. As I click on that progress, I get the detail over here. So they're skipping around a little bit. So I might want to go talk to that student or send an email to that student and say, hey, you know, you forgot to do something here. You're skipping around. I need you to do these in order. Okay, so this is what I was saying about no grades. You can see the progress, but these aren't really graded. However, if you link to them from Canvas, or you link to them from Schoology, or if you link to them from Google Classroom, then you can add grades right off to the side. You can have them maybe fill out submit a Google Doc on how the process went, or I'm just making this up as I go along. You can have them submit something, and then you can grade them on this lesson after they do it. So the lesson is added to a classroom, but you're not really able to grade even that, really. You have to kind of do it off to the side.
One question, it's a good one, is how would you choose? How would you recommend figuring out what lesson to start with assigning to your students? And in the beginning, Melinda showed you there were filters down the left side. When you're looking at all the lessons, there's filters. And my response, I'm writing it in the Q&A, but one thing to think about first is like, what do you think your students need or be interested in studying? And that could either be a Google tool or it could be a topic. And using those filters can narrow down the lessons you see. And then I would consider, when you're looking at the lessons, how does that fit into the rest of the work that you're doing with your students? So there are lessons on doing a research project, right? So then there could be little videos on showing people how to use the various aspects of Google that could be used towards doing a research project. But in the rest of your lesson, that you're not doing on Google, you would be talking about, you know, what would the research project be on? Are you studying certain authors, whatever? That would be my 2 cents, but you might have some other things to say, Melinda.
Actually, yeah, that's exactly it. I would think about what I'm doing in a class. What am I doing already? This is a tool to add to lessons that you already have in place, maybe. So don't think of it as it's going to take the place of your class already, your classroom. These are additional tools to help your students learn how to search or how to use sheets, because you're doing a budget. You're doing how to use Excel, maybe. And why not have them do the sheets? The skills will transfer. So think about what you're doing in class and how these can fit into that. That would be my advice. There, you know, there's more than one way to peel a carrot.
Also, there, you can see some collections at the very top there. They've added these new collections where teach from anywhere, learn from anywhere, work from anywhere. And that might be another place to start, as that's the kind of world we're all being thrown into. And again, that project I just mentioned, the one about doing a research project, is one of the ones they have in there. But it's, you know, the idea here is that they've thought through the kinds of skills we need in the world, and they're trying to think of developing lessons that make you apply those skills. You're learning the skill at the same time as you're doing something bigger. So these are all projects, and you can also see as you get into the list of all the lessons that some are 45 minutes to 90 minutes long, and some are 6 hours long. And so you can decide that you want to take pieces of the lesson, and you can't edit the lesson. So some people have been asking, if you're assigning a lesson to a class, they're going to see the whole lesson, but you then can say, we're only going to do these sections in the lesson. If students want to do more, they can, but these are the main pieces you want them to see, and then you're going to apply them to something that you're using the rest of your instruction.
Some questions that have come up in the past with other boot camps that we've done. Can I just link to the video? All I want my students to see is the video, and absolutely, you can do that. So when you open up a lesson, let me get back to my lessons here, my classes. As you're going through, you can click on a video, and then in the Omnibar, applied or address bar, whatever you want to call it, you can select that link, and it should open up here to this video for you. You can also, I forgot to tell you guys, there's captions. You can do captions in here. Picture in picture, what's that? Look at that.
In the previous video, You chose your
see
quiz
this?
topic and built your form. In this video, you will start creating your quiz with multiple choices.
I don't know why you would want to do that picture-in-picture. I thought they had their YouTube listed here, but they don't. So just select the link up at the top of the in the address bar, in the Omni bar. Okay, so you can link to videos. I'm trying to think. Oh, I know. I was saving it. Someone asked earlier about Spanish. You guys don't want Spanish lessons, do you? Nobody wants the Spanish lessons, right? Not in California. I am scrolling all the way down to the bottom of the page. Doesn't matter what page you're on. I don't think. I'm on the lessons page. Just start there. So click on the lessons up at the top of your page, okay? And scroll all the way down to the bottom. And down there, and actually Nell found this when we were in Indiana because I thought the link was lost forever. But we have English selected. If you choose Español, there you are. Now we're in Spanish and we go to actividades. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I apologize. I am now profesor, okay? And there are 8 lessons in Spanish right now. So I'm gonna choose horas. Here we go. I have no idea what this means. I'm going to click on a video link. I'm going to hit play.
El currículum le brinda al empleador un resumen de las habilidades y experiencia.
You have the same functions to slow down or speed up. You have the same functionality in the transcript where you can just click a text line and it will open up for you. So the lessons are the same. When we first started doing applied digital skills training, they did not have this. And then they had 1. And then they had 2. Okay, so choose language way down at the bottom of the page. You can select English United States or English United Kingdom. And Francais, they only have 1. That might have changed though. Google is always changing. That's something else that's important. When you're using this, number 1, you're going to notice the lessons. They're going to be increasing. Google's always adding to this. These collections weren't here when we first started doing trainings. I went to a training somewhere and all of a sudden I had 3 collections up at the top of my screen. I had no idea what they were about. So we figured it out. We figured it out together. But you might have some learning moments with your students because something's changed. And that's okay.
There was a question about changing the language. So the idea was whether students could themselves decide if they wanted a lesson in another language. And my answer to that was that no, there are only a few lessons that have been actually translated. And my understanding is that you'd have to assign them in the language that you want them, that you expect people to participate in them with.
Right. You know, unless there's 8 lessons and if those float your boat, as far as I'm adding to a class, you could definitely make them Spanish and then assign them to your students,
right.
or have your students come into them.
Right. I think the idea is that you as a teacher though would make that decision for the class.
Right.
In the class. And another point here is that this platform is actually available to anyone. So you as a teacher can definitely use this and make a class and invite students to your class. But actually any human being can go onto the internet and search for this and take lessons at for their own pleasure. So if a student does want it in a different language than you do, and for some reason you don't want to add it that way, they can always go and do it in the language that they want to outside of your class. The benefit of using the class structure on the platform is that you can track what your students are doing and students know kind of the process, which lesson are they all working on and where are they in their lesson. You could definitely not, that's not a requirement to using these lessons. You don't have to assign a lesson to a class in order for the lesson to become alive. You can just go in and do the lesson any way you want to. And someone brought that up earlier too, that this is actually a great place for us to learn. Like this is made for all of us. So Melinda said it too, I've learned a lot from taking some of these lessons. So you can, and we didn't share that yet, but so there is a G Suite certification which is like the Microsoft credential kind of, and this is not within the, you know, being a learner or teacher certification. And the skill, the sort of very discrete skill list of skills that you need for that certification, they've created lessons specifically for that. And that could be a way for you just to create your own personal learning plan. I often find that that's a struggle for myself and for the teachers I work with, that, you know, what do I need to know? It's like, there's no list out there for me to just check off, like, what do I know and what don't I know? And we found that the list of skills you need for the G Suite certification can be valuable even if you're not going to seek out that certification, that you could go there and be like, oh, I know how to move my folder to another folder, but I didn't know that you could, you know, make a copy of it or whatever it is. And so there's a very discrete outline of things that you can study. So someone's asking, yes, so if you assign in English, they will see it in English. If they want the Spanish version, if you know that might be the case, go ahead and add it in Spanish as well, and the student can choose which version they want to look to use in the class.
But
yeah,
if the lesson that you have in English is write an if-then adventure story, and that hasn't been translated yet to Spanish, they can't view it in Spanish. It's in English. So there are only 8 lessons right now that are in Spanish.
And that's partially because they're so video based.
Right.
So you could use Google Translate to do some of the other components of these lessons and whatever you want. But the struggle for Google and this particular set of lessons is that they're very video based, and so the videos have to be remade. So it's not just translating an existing lesson. So it's the ones that are available in Spanish are a subset. I think we said 6 or 8.
Yeah, I think there's 8. Yeah.
And French, I think there's only 1, and then there's British English, which we're totally confused by, but that's, you know, maybe they speak in British English on the videos. But the point with all that is that this is all new. They're building this. And certainly if you find a lesson that you think would be amazingly valuable in Spanish or in another language, do let us know. We can forward it on to Google. They're working on this, but they, you know, we can help them prioritize if we see something, but you can't, so if a student is coming into your lesson, into your class, you've created a class, and that was another thing people wanted to be shown again, how you add someone to a class or how you invite them in. But if a student comes in, you've given the link, the student has come into your class, the benefit of the class is that you get to assign lessons to help structure the learning. So a student comes in, they know which lesson they're working on, they can see all the lessons they've already worked on. It's a way to kind of make the world a little smaller, because this is a really big platform with 109 lessons today, and every day there's new lessons being added. So the benefit of creating a class and inviting students into the class is that you help them see the structure of what you're all studying together. But that's not a required piece of this at all. The fact is you can come in without a class and go to any lesson you want to. You could create a class just for yourself to track what you've been studying. That's just really it's a feature for organization more than the kind of broader sense of class that you might be using in Google Classrooms or in Canvas, where you're using that basically as a learning management system for all the lessons that you're covering.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head. This is not a learning management system. This is just a collection of all kinds of videos and text and what have you put together, and you can use it to learn something, to learn digital skills. And they've just added the teacher component so that teachers can actually view the progress. Okay. So how do you get a student in your class? You can't force them to be in your class. What you do is you give them the code. So right now I'm sharing a code with everybody in the Zoom. So if you went as a student, you have to go to your profile, right? If it says teacher on the top right-hand corner, if it says teacher, then you need to change that to student. So you need to switch your role to student. And then you can come and join my class using 63 stuck as the code. Okay, so that's one way to get your students into your class, is you're actually having a Meet or your Zoom or a WebEx or whatever, and you say, okay, everybody, I want you to open up a browser and I want you to go to Applied Digital Skills. I want you, let's just pretend they already have an account, okay? And I want you to join this class. So they're going to click on the join button and they're going to type in this code. Now, part of the handout that we're going to give to you has those instructions in it. So we're going to give you those instructions so that you can share it with your students. And it's a step-by-step. This is how they join your class. Okay, if anybody wants to use this code to join this class, they can do it now as long as they're a student. I don't think I have, if I go to my People tab, I could also give you the code to join as a co-teacher. By the way, segue, as you're looking at the names of your students, they will be listed as no name. Their username will come up. That's the username as part of their email. On this browser, I can name these students and they will remain here. Okay, so right here we've got no name, M. Holt. I know that this person's name is Melinda. So I type where it says no name, or click where it says no name, and it tells me names are saved to this browser and this computer only. You won't see these names on any other browser or any other computer. So if I open up this class on my laptop, I won't see these names that I'm typing in now on my desktop. Why? It's to protect privacy. Okay, so that's why it's protecting your students' privacy. So if you want to learn more, then you would click the link and something will open up. Why can't I get out of that? There we go. I think that answered the question. This is the code you're going to give to students. You can copy it and send it to them in an email. Google makes it really simple for you. You can copy this whole message right here. It gives them step by step, and we're going to make it even simpler by giving you this handout. Again, all of the things that we just covered are in this handout. We've got the progress details map. Boom, there we go. Okay, if you want to return to the table of contents, you hit the TOC. After this, because a teacher asked me, well, this is great for me, but what about my students? So I created a student guide. It works the same way. When you get this handout, you can send this to your students or you can share it with your students. This is how they sign in. If they're on a club, they have to choose a role. This is how they join a class, A, B, C, really simple. And I tried to use very simple language, big letters, so everybody could see what they were doing. Also, just little areas of the lesson that they may need to be aware of, okay? What they can do. And a basic tech terms dictionary. Your students are going to have to know some words. They're going to have to know desktop. They're going to have to know copy. They're going to have to know select, right? So these words, if you click on them, they will take you to that page of the dictionary. There's a definition, and then each of the words are used in 2 sentences. And it looks like some of them are colored differently because I didn't get to that. Okay. And again, you can go back to table of contents of this section, select another link, and it takes you to that word. Okay. In addition to that, there's a basic keyboard shortcut slide, because these are some commands that will help your students as they're going through applied digital skills or any kind of device or operating system. Most, if not all, of these commands work across the board. So they work on a Mac, a PC. I'm not too sure about these 3 at the end here. These work on Chrome. So just to give you an example, Control Shift and the greater than sign, I'm going to hold those down on my keyboard, and you see it increases inside by 1 pixel. Okay, or decreases if I use the less than sign. So I'm not sure those work within like a Word or PowerPoint, but everything else does. I also see a question in the Q&A. Your students are almost all on smartphones. Is this compatible? Yes and no. It goes to a small screen. Okay, and if they have to share their projects or they have to upload I'm going to use the word upload, but they're actually sharing something that they've created with you. So it's going to be a drive to drive share. That could be difficult for them if they don't have the apps installed. So if your students are working on smartphones, they have an extra step or extra couple of steps to take, because they're going to have to download sheets. If you're using sheets with them, or if the lessons have sheets, they're going to have to download docs, and they're going to have to download slides. So those 3 applications they're going to need to download in order to do the projects. It will be hard for them on a smaller smartphone screen than it will be on a tablet. They can do it on tablets, or a laptop, a Chromebook, a desktop, any kind of a computer device. Some of our students, they're adults and they have children, and their children have been sent home with computers. So maybe they could arrange to use their student Chromebooks or laptops, whatever the students were sent home with. So that's an idea, kind of thinking out of the box there. Once you close this browser, if you sign into Google on any tool, if you sign into your email, or you sign into Drive and you're using something, and all of a sudden, oh, I want to go to Applied Digital Skills, you're already signed in. All you have to do is click the sign in button, and Google remembers that you were there. So you don't have to create another account every time.
The terminology here is that you have a class, not a classroom. So you have a class and you're assigning lessons in there, and the lesson is a full, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's the whole lesson. So it comes with a bunch of videos and usually some assignments. And then once students join your class and start participating in a lesson, you will see how far along they've gone in watching the videos. The part that you can't track so clearly there is how much work they've done on the project outside of the video. Like if you're making your own Google form, that piece is being done outside of the Applied Digital Skills platform. And that's why you can't time how long a student is on a project. So they're going to make their Google form and then they're going to share it with you. And so you could say, you know, there's completion to the project because they made the form and you can see the form, but you only see on the Google Applied Digital Skills platform in the class, you will see how much of the videos they've watched. So another question about the certification. So there's no requirement for Google certification. What I was bringing up was the G Suite certification is a relatively new certification as far as I'm aware of. And it's great for your students as well as for you, just like you might use a Microsoft credential. A lot of programs in New York City have been offering Microsoft credential, but didn't have an equivalent for Google. So the G Suite credential could do that. I'm also recommending, though, even if you don't want a credential, that what is nice about the G Suite certification list of skills is that it gives you a sense of where you are in your skill set. Are these things familiar to you? Are there some things here that are completely new? And the Applied Digital Skills lessons, actually, there are several lessons like directly related to those skill sets. So if you, for yourself, or you for your students, think that that of skills, even if you're not working towards the certification, but just to have sort of a discrete list, and it really is very discrete. So it's, you know, if you're talking about Google Drive, as I mentioned, it might be how to share a document, how to change the name of a rename a document, how to add it to another folder. They're all individual skills, and that's a checkbox for each thing. So I've shared a link to that list of skills. If you are Google certified, you probably know a lot of them, but there might be some that are relatively new or changing. And if not, then it's not for you. This is really for people who are a little bit lost as to what do I need to know next? What is the thing that I don't know? Or where can I start even? And for students too, it might be something to work towards. The G Suite certification does cost money. There's a way that you might be able to get a discount if you contact us. I think we can ask Google. I'm not sure. Melinda, you might know more about that. But
I think they discontinued that. But I do know that if you're on a club, if you have an EDU account, you get a discount. It's half. So instead of the $75, it's the $37. So that includes for your students. I think you can get licenses or tickets basically for your students at the $37 rate.
Someone just asked about modifying the lessons. So the lessons are not modifiable in the sense that they come as a set of videos and assignments, but you as a teacher can say, we are only going to watch video number 4 or this link to this video. And I've seen a lot of teachers take the lesson themselves and kind of gain the bits of knowledge they needed, and then they turn around and they do the teaching, but they give the students access to the videos as a backup. So when the student, you know, you all together are learning how to make a Google form, but if a student then has an assignment to make a Google form, you've let them know they can find these videos. The videos are really well done. They're short, they're step by step. And you don't have to redo that then. So you can learn from, so different people will do different things. If you have a particular concern around the students that you work with, where you think that the whole lesson is too complex or too much, you absolutely don't have to use all the lesson, but the lesson is going to be assigned in total. It can't be taken apart in your class. You can decide which parts you're going to emphasize as what the students need to cover. But the lesson itself is a whole unit. It doesn't, you can't take it apart.
And to piggyback on the certification, the certification that the cloud certification is assessing skills on the applications that you use within G Suite's EDU. So there's also other certifications that you can get through Google, and those are Google Educator Level 1, Level 2, Google Innovator, and Google Trainer. In order to become a Google Trainer, you have to get Google Educator Level 1 and 2. Those certifications, I'm going to say, get you more involved, not only with the using the application, but you get more into the discussion of the pedagogy of the app, of the drive, of the entire Google set of tools, and using it in a classroom. And the Google Trainer actually trains you more on becoming a coach for teachers that, you know, they want to start using Drive, but they're not sure, okay, I want to do this with my students. I want them to learn this skill. I want them to be able to do this at the end. What can I do? What can I send them? Where can I send them? So the trainer is more in line with a coach, and the educator, you're learning all kinds of things as far as not only using the app, but why would you use the app and how you would use the app with your students, the when, what, where, how, high, why, everything. So let me explain the link before I give it out, okay? The link is a copy link. So when you type it, or when you type it in your address bar, you don't have to be, but you should be signed in to your Google, okay? Doesn't matter if it's Google Club or Google Pub, if it's at gmail.com or if it's at edu.net, doesn't matter, okay? But you have to be signed into it, because what happens when you put this link into your address bar, the next page is going to ask you, do you want to make a copy of this? This will be going into your drive. Now, usually when we click on links that say stuff like that, we get really scared and we back away. But I'm telling you that this link is okay. I also had some problems with this link this morning. When I actually clicked on it, it said there was an error. So I think that it was because of my bandwidth. My interweb has been a little wonky this morning. So here we go. I'm going to show you the link. There it is. It is a bit.ly. So bit.ly/Coabe slides. When you type that in your address bar, it should take you to a page that says copy. Make a copy. Okay? When you make a copy, you will be able to do whatever you want with it, as long as you give attribution, it's non-commercial, and you share alike. So share this with your teachers, please. If they weren't able to come, distribute it to your students. You know, you can cut out parts of the slides if you want. You can do anything you want to it. But if you get any money for it, I want to cut. Okay. Okay. All right. And the attribution, I don't really care about that, but it came part as the license. So, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to add an S here because that might have been your problem. So if anybody had any problems, okay.
Someone's asking, this is Mercedes, maybe this was her question earlier. So say you are teaching slides, you want your students to learn all about Google Slides, and you find a lovely lesson in Applied Digital Skills. How do you go in and add your own directions to the project? And I would say that you do this the same way you've done it with textbooks or anything, right? You don't necessarily use the whole chapter or go from chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3. You kind of move around. So if what I would be doing in this situation is I would either, we would discuss what the project is originally, right? Like we've all been working on a project where we're going to describe our home life or my home country or what I do for work or whatever it is, and that's been something we've discussed in class, and we've done a lot of work practicing vocabulary and working on how you research a project and maybe even a bibliography or whatever. Then I might go to Google Applied Digital Skills and bring your students to a lesson that is particularly on using slides to take that content. I would review the lesson first to see where there are places where you should be inserting your own directions that are different than what the lesson has built into it. Or maybe, again, you're going to hop around and just show them a couple of the videos that specifically talk about how to make a bibliography or how to put an image into your slides. And the requirement for the project is, they've done all the content and all the intellectual piece through your work with them. What the Google Slides lesson from Applied Digital Skills did was teach them how to insert an image or how to add audio or whatever it is you want them to do. And that becomes part of the assignment, right? That you have to create, as the end project, you have to create a slideshow that has at least 10 slides in it. It includes 2 images. You make sure that you've, made, yeah, I don't know what else you wanted to put in there, but that would be what I would suggest.
I just copied the link and I pasted it in a drive or in my Omnibar. Okay, and this is what I get. So if I click on make a copy, that will go into my drive. Now, if you're having problems, it could be, I created this on the pub. So I created this using @gmail.com. If you keep trying to get it and it's not working, it could be that you're on your club and it's not allowing you to share. So if you have any questions, you can send them to support.otan.us. All right, everybody, have a good lunch and we'll see you soon.